Welcome to the Poetry Project of the Arts Council of Torrance. My name is Megan Willis. I am a poet and singer. The Arts Council of Torrance, ACT, was established in 1985 to advocate for and promote the arts in Torrance and the South Bay. It is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. Pre-pandemic, ACT had a regular schedule of free artistic programs and performances for the benefit of the community. These included a focus on poetry, with an annual competition for high schoolers and first-year college students. In addition, poetry readings by established poets were held throughout the year. We have been unable to perform these in-person events due to the CDC restrictions. We have created this film as a reminder of the active poetry component of the Arts Council, and in these unusual times, of the talented poets who continue to produce their art. All of the contributors are members of ACT and are award-winning poets who live in the South Bay. Please enjoy the beauty and range of the spoken word. We encourage you to support the Arts Council of Torrance at this difficult time through membership or other donation by visiting us at www.artscounciloftorrance.org. We are very grateful. Speak beauty on the page. Karen Basiulis was born and raised in Watsonville, California, and has lived in Southern California for many years. She earned a BA in music from Cal State Long Beach and a master's degree in systems management from USC. She is a published poet and has come back to poetry and singing after retiring from a long career in project and contracts management, mostly in the aerospace industry. Karen has sung with Los Cancioneros Master Chorale in Torrance for several years, having served as its president for 2 years and currently serving on the board of directors as development director. She has performed with LCMC at Carnegie Hall, in Canada, and in Vienna. She was the first prize winner of the Arts Council of Torrance 2018 poetry competition. She acted as coordinator of the 2019 and 2020 competitions, the latter having to be canceled due to COVID-19. Karen lives in San Pedro with Al, her husband of 28 years, and 2 semi-feral cats.
From our ancestors come our names, but from our virtues come our honors. Latin proverb. I got Karen'd today, my friend's post read, and I cringed. My beautiful, talented, brilliant friend targeted just because she is Asian. When did my name become a symbol of hate and intolerance, and why wasn't I notified? There was no email, no memo, no petition, not that I would have signed it, but there should have been something. I should have been consulted. It took my parents 2 weeks and a call from the County Board of Statistics to come up with Karen. Blindsided because I wasn't the boy they'd wanted, they tried on generations of family names before landing on my 2 grandmothers, Catherine, Stella. But those had already been recycled several times over, and after the prod from the county to please fill in my birth certificate with something other than baby girl, they settled on Karen, Norwegian for Catherine, meaning purity, Estelle, from Stella, meaning star. Karen Estelle, purity star. Hate and intolerance. I don't see the connection. I watch, puzzled and dismayed, as my solid, sturdy name is taken in vain to describe ignorant words or actions or people that divide and demean and hurt. Now I know how God feels. Okay, class, let's conjugate the verb to Karen. I, Karen. You, Karen. He, she, or it, Karens. I do not Karen. I do not dare Karen. No Karen would ever consciously Karen. I got Karen'd today, my friend's post said, and a mutual friend reminded me that in Hebrew, a Karen is a ray of light, pure warmth, pure illumination. I see it now. Okay, class, let's try this again. I got Karen'd today, my friend's post says, but this time she does not hurt, and I do not cringe, but instead we bask in the warmth of the purest light that shines from us all. You sit at home now, black in your anger, black in your grief, and you cry, and you remember, and you cry. Tell me what it's like to be alone. I don't know. I lost only a father. But you lost a lover, a protector, a friend. You lost everything. So tell me how a memory can't warm a bed or pay the bills or bring you flowers. Show me the old blue truck with his living declared on the bumper, apples for health. Open the medicine chest and breathe in the scent of old spice that still lingers. Feed me his favorite Sunday dinner, roast pork and your award-winning apple pie, and the bread from the recipe that still sits on the spice shelf, the last one he asked you to try. Read to me from his beloved Sherlock Holmes and Edgar Allan Poe. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Run your fingers over the coarseness of his World War II uniform, still holding pride of place in the closet, and tell me again how much you hate carving your own turkey and being called a single parent. Widow mother, black in your anger, black in your grief, help me understand. I smelled Paris tonight. At an outdoor summer concert, in the midst of fried chicken, pasta salad, Tchaikovsky, and the Hollywood Hills, I smelled Paris. That light, lovely floral that welcomed me to the Hotel Saint-Germain and followed me past the flying buttresses of Notre Dame, down the River Seine, and to the cafes of Montmartre. Tonight, I shamelessly followed the scent to its source and asked her what she was wearing. Sunflowers, she answered brightly, but I know better. It was Paris. She sits on the bench at the bus stop on the corner, clothes tattered, face streaked with dirt and tear dust. Feet wrapped in layers of formerly white ribbons of bandages, pathetic as makeshift shoes. No one knows her story. She screams obscenities at me and anyone who passes her, we assume as punishment for our clean clothes and sturdy shoes and pristine lives. We ignore her as just another crazy woman who doesn't know what she is saying, who has no right to judge us or our pristine lives. We ignore her as just another crazy woman who doesn't know what she is saying, who has no right to judge us or our pristine lives. She screams and curses, eyes wild and unfocused, and I think maybe we're flattering ourselves. Maybe it has nothing to do with any of us, but someone who is not in the picture, someone who may have earned this verbal assault, but with whom she was mute then, by choice or by force, someone who long ago abandoned her, or beat her, or left her numb. We walk by and flip the switch, and the memory, vivid now, enrages her, the feeling returning to her battered body, not with gentle tingling or pins and needles, but with wild fury and indignation and pain that in the absence of her long-ago tormentor, she can only now release, over and over again, to anyone who passes her, sitting on the bench at the bus stop on the corner. You cleaned me out again. Like a voracious teenager at the refrigerator, you stand there gleefully ravaging shelf after shelf, chewing me up and spitting out the bones like so much garbage. But you shiver in the cold, so I open my oven door and offer up its warmth. But the temperature is never quite right, and I adjust and you reject. I adjust and you reject, until the cake can't possibly end up anything but a runny mess, and you skewer my incompetence. In desperation, I throw open my cupboard doors and lay bare what's left of me, neatly arranged in efficient little rows that you claim are not as neat as the neighbors, and with one dramatic sweep of your arm, send crashing to the floor. I am spent. But because I am drained, I am empty. And because I am empty, I am free. I am pure. I am lighter than air. And as you rage against this exquisite irony, I rise. I rise slowly and gently until I am above it all. I rise until the mess below me hazes over and I am out of your reach. You rage and I rise. You rage because I rise. You rage and I rise, and in that glorious moment I know that from here on in, the kitchen is closed. For Laura, 2 years later. Another Saturday night babysitting the three of you, my sweet cousins, Laura, Tracy, and Michael, like one word to me. I didn't date or drink or party in high school. I preferred the three of you most weekends, my personal holy trinity, who would bring me the closest to a mother that I would ever be. Tonight we were baking cookies, and the flour or the sugar or the baking powder, I really don't remember which, slipped through my fingers and splattered the floor with white powder. I rolled my eyes and muttered, "I'm such a Butterfingers." You and your sister giggled and giggled as little girls do. Michael was too little to understand. And from then on, I was Butterfingers. I am Butterfingers. Even 40 years later, when I pay you one last visit, I bring a scarf for your chemo-bald head and lotion for your chemo-parched skin, and my eponymous candy bar, of course. You are there with your mother and your husband and your daughter and your brother and your sister and your niece and still more cousins, and I am overcome by the amount of love in that room. It rises like the heat off a sweltering summer sidewalk, swirling and swaddling and encircling and enveloping everyone and everything there, displacing the oxygen with its sweet, tender fury, and I literally gasp for air. Tracy giggles and giggles as women do and holds the candy close to you. "Remember, Laura?" she asks with all the wide-eyed exuberance of that long-ago 6-year-old. "Remember?" You nod, your brave face swollen and bent in a smile that is heartbreakingly, unrelentingly, tragically perfect. The perfect soccer mom who once tried to explain offsides to me, with a heart big enough to hold the world and a brain that has betrayed you and is heartbreakingly, tragically, prematurely calling the game. I kiss you goodbye and later get the call where head in hands I rage and wonder honestly, which is worse, dying young or living on and watching as everything that makes that bearable, heartbreakingly, unrelentingly, tragically, slips through these damn butter fingers and is gone. The daily walk along the marina, a brief escape from sheltering in place. Heads covered in hats to shield us from the sun, faces covered in masks to shield us from the plague, but nothing to shield us from his news this morning. It's likely cancer. He walks ahead of me, looking into the water, and turns suddenly, pointing. Look, a Garibaldi! His delight genuine, childlike, exuberant. And I remember one of his favorite stories from his scuba days, when the bright orange creatures would surround him, anxiously fish-kissing his diving mask, while he carved up a succulent sea urchin for their dinner. And how he twists popular song lyrics to insert the word fish where it doesn't belong and where it makes no sense, singing them out at the top of his lungs, just to see me laugh. We look over the railing for his Garibaldi, but it has swum away. My eyes bore into the water, willing it to reappear for him, but it is gone. He sighs and keeps walking. He is my world. Is a single fish too much to ask? You wonder out loud if I will ever leave you. You who are everything I have ever been and ever will be, everywhere I have ever gone or ever will go, everything I have ever done or ever will do. You ask this. You ask this as if it is an option, as if all these years were some sort of trial run, or a can of beans with a use-by date that has passed, or a warranty that has expired. You ask this. I see my reflection in your eyes. All that is there is you and me and us and ours, and in those eyes I see the proof that you are missing. Look closer, my love. Your fingerprints are everywhere. This next poem was written by Steve Norris, who is the president of the Arts Council of Torrance. Steve couldn't be here today, so I will read it on his behalf. It is called The Chair Along the Road. Looking out my window, I see that chair. Oh, that chair. Red, brown, wooden, handmade chair. Why is it sitting on the curb? I have seen other chairs out before, chairs along the road discarded, but this one, why is it going to face the coming storm? Even now, the four-legged contrivance is working, performing its job, its daily duty, as a perch for a bird, a ledge for a sleeping cat, a place a morning jogger can stop to rest and tie her pink shoes. This piece of furniture, it had a home. It was loved, used. It was created by the man who used it and cherished it. The chair was there at his table for every holiday celebration, evening meals, and yes, even tax time. A place he sat to play cards with friends, family, and me. He pondered and made his plans sitting on it. The man sat on the chair and read the newspaper, wrote letters, looked out the window at the people passing parade. He wrote stories, poems, songs for his wife. That was his writing chair, Red, as he called it. They were a team. He would talk aloud to Red, that chair, that four-legged handmade contrivance, a most useful thing. Now red is baking in the hot midday sun, subject to the weather and the coming storm. It was made from a red oak tree, honed and cut, carefully carved, each detail a memory of his life with his wife as its motif. It was an item of joy, as it was his wife's favorite piece. She sat in it when she became ill. She died sitting on that chair, listening as the man read her one of his stories, her favorite one, as it made her laugh. She believed, had faith in God, faith strong enough for the both of them. She asked him to be good. She would wait for him. Once she was gone, he was filled with such despair. His loneliness grew each day. His rage also overcame his wife's faith. Alone, dark, hopeless, now cold and godless, he wrote his final letter. He stepped on the chair and jumped into the first page and chapter of his next life. Looking across the street, the clouds amassed. I ran and quickly took Red tearfully away. It started to rain, and I brought it to the theater as a prop. Red got used often now. It has more life experience and feeling in its grain than most green actors. Its nails are loose from its last tragedy. There is a mournful creak from Red. I hear it at night, I believe. When it's alone, cold in the stage ghost light, Red cries.
Gay Hubbard Durward is a fourth-generation Californian who was accidentally born in Seattle. She grew up in that hardscrabble town of Beverly Hills as the daughter of an opera singer and a Coast Guard officer. After graduation from Beverly Hills High School, she earned a BA in theater arts from UCLA. Gay has sung with Los Cancioneros Master Chorale for 30 years and is a founding member of Pennyroyal Players, both of which are award-winning exponents of the arts. She has the privilege of teaching artistic techniques to people with special needs. She is the winner of the first annual Shakespeare Award for Poetry, awarded by the Torrance Performing Arts Consortium, and the Arts Council of Torrance's first poetry competition in 2018. Gay believes that poetry, when read aloud, has the quality of a fine musical composition. One syllable too few or too many, a forced rhyme, or an overwrought idea can turn the piece from poetry to simply an oddly written work of prose. She has been married to Don Durward for 53 and a half years and has 2 remarkable sons and 5 spectacular grandchildren.
When I was 17, I dreamed of penny nails and lace, shiny silver nails that nestled firmly into newly lacquered boards and fresh white lace on creamy, spotless silk. I dreamed of crisp white paper in whose folds were words of love from my new beau, a letter soon to be tied in bright pink ribbon with 2 sharp-cut ends. I worshipped at a crystal vase filled with flowers standing straight and tall on pale green stems. I lived in glossy lips and hair, with smooth straight toes and carefully considered clothes, reflected from the latest magazines and then discarded as the seasons changed. I traveled in carriages with 4 black wheels and glistening skins, and read books made from ancient trees, abandoning them later without a thought. Now the numbers of my years reverse themselves, and I have found that petals smell their sweetest right before they fall. That splintered wood reveals its grain and broken rocks its layers. That rusty nails hold firmly as before. That papers to be relished, browned, and aged with tears like tea-stained lace and frayed silk. New bows have been replaced by one who's as steadfast as a hand-knit sweater on a blustery day. Old gnarled toes tell tales of adventures lived, and bright pink ribbon fades to a becoming blush. My rusty chariot will always find the way back home, no matter where I've been or where I'll go. These are treasures I have found. Hey, you up there, enough already. You've thrown it all at us: fire, flood, famine, earthquake, and killer bees. You've even thrown in a couple of really good plagues just to get our attention. Okay, so you miss sending frogs. Well, pin a rose on your nose. And why? To keep us humble? Well, it won't work, because we keep right on believing that we can predict, cure, alleviate, conquer, overcome, and sometimes we can. Is it really worth all your trouble? Don't you know by now that we don't need you to make us miserable? We do that naturally, all by ourselves. Today, I stood looking at the sky above my home and watched the clouds scudding across it like the fluffs of flour which flew from my mother's hands when she was baking. They swooped across a backdrop of finely polished bluish green with specks of gold, like the Kingman turquoise, glowing on the placid hand of that Navajo shaman whom I met just weeks ago under a phoenix sky. Like that, but more intense and even more serene, just as it had been for countless generations, back in a time when the stone was newly forming in the ground. And then I thought about another skyward face, a child half a world away, who looks into his sky and prays for mist and obscured sun and gloom to blind the pilots and confound the deadly rain which they will pour out of the sunlight above his home. We share one sky, we dreaming three, the child, the ancient one, and me. There is a Christmas every day in my heart. It has no cathedral, no leaded glass crackled on the outside with frosted webs and hazy on the inside from the warm breath of singing children. There is no spicy scent of pine, no scarlet flash of berries, no priests in gilded robes, no Gothic chanting, no fragrant, ghostly wisps of snuffed-out bayberry wicks, no chalice, no paten, no sonorous pipes echoing into the streets where sodden-booted celebrants greet strangers as friends and friends as family. I see no garnished bird upon the table, roasted umber and stuffed with bread. No errant strands of tinsel glimmering in the rug to amuse the cat. No tiny footsteps hesitate upon the stairs, drawn by the lure of midnight mystery. No heavy-lidded eyes wake to the smell of cinnamon buns at 5 a.m. and festively papered gifts. All these things are dear to me, preserved and cherished, but there is another Christmas in my heart. My cathedral is a glade of canopied trees, thriving in the summer's warmth of the opposite hemisphere. Its pews are probing roots, reaching erosely to the sea over lava sands and spray-seasoned rocks. We sit, wrapped, quiet and alone, or so we think, until 100 creatures' voices exult through the wilderness, each with their own song, their own psalm, their own inflection, the traditions of 10 million years resounding around us. And our heightened senses reach out in gratitude to receive the most sacred gift of all, the knowledge that joy and celebration are born anew each daybreak when the world, and we in it, awake to life's infinite possibilities. This is the Christmas in my heart. This is the jubilation in my soul. If you've ever come home numb and icy, then stretched out luxuriantly before an open fire. If you've ever sweated in the glaring savage sun, then watched it fade to fuchsia over a pewter sea. If you've ever been half starved and then been welcomed by the smell of baking biscuits, sage, and cloves, then you know how it felt to fall in love with you. If you've ever seen a child on Christmas Day who runs to find the wonders on the tree, if you've ever watched a fox cub venture out for his first steps on piney, rocky soil, if you've ever danced barefoot in the grass after the first summer rain, then you know how it felt to marry you. If you've ever stood on a craggy bluff and let an errant wave drench you with its spray, if you've ever fondled a precious antique and absorbed the echoes of its storied past, if you've ever looked in awe, in wonder, at the span and breadth of all the heavens and the stars, then you know how it feels to love you still, and with the passage of the years, to love you more than ever, every day. Now I will read a poem by Steve Norris, current president of the Arts Council of Torrance. He could not be with us today. The Woman in the Newspaper by Steve Norris. She was the woman in the newspaper. She was important, going places fast, until her life expired, joining the chorus of other souls who have also perished on this perilous highway lined with eucalyptus and olive trees that cradled between them the swirling morning fog. The driver's everyday obstacle. Drivers jockey for position for the lead, their daily deadly sport. The stretch of road is only a half-mile long, a stoplight at its end. The driver's efforts are pointless, saving no time. The woman in the paper was a passenger in the car avoiding a collision. The car swerved, slid, skidded, screeched a high F sharp as the tires scarred the asphalt black, then crashed into the light standard, smashing the car and taking her life. Now the light post is a memorial decorated seasonally. It is now February, so the memorial Christmas wreath is brown, as needles have mostly fallen in piles on the ground. A helium balloon droops and dangles as it pulls against its tether. Her photo is now faded. Wet from the morning dew, the ink runs like mascara, distorting her image. The flowers are dried, withered, their petals strewn over the curb, falling into the road. The speeding car's wind wake, like an invisible hand, lifts the petals up in the air, crackling as they chase each other, spiraling to the gutter. The woman was remembered, loved. She made the front page. I'll never forget the picture, but I just can't remember her name. She was that woman in the newspaper.
Megan Willis came to live in Southern California over 40 years ago by way of Philadelphia and Boston. She attended St. Joseph's College in Philadelphia and the New England Conservatory of Music in Boston. She became a teacher of transcendental meditation at a 3-month in-residence program in Europe with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi in 1974. She continues to teach meditation today. Megan has been singing since she was 10 years old. She has sung with Los Cancioneros Master Chorale for 23 years and currently performs a solo concert of music from the Great American Songbook. She has served as a commissioner on the Cultural Arts Commission of Torrance, as president of the Arts Council of Torrance, and as president of Los Cancioneros. She is the winner of the Shakespeare Award for Poetry, given by the Torrance Performing Arts Consortium. She says, "It's all about the journey." Megan has had 2 children, a splendid son who lives in Massachusetts, and a beloved daughter who passed away at the age of 18. She has 2 great stepsons and a lovely granddaughter. It's a grinding business, this searching for the perfect voice. Since there is still the dust of Delhi in the throat, and the sands of long-forgotten beaches silts the sounds and sandals, voice is jealous of the silences of forests and the caws of crows. Voice wants to be heard, but only at its most refined and powerful. Some say it's just a point of view, a rather irrelevant, quixotic stance. Nothing bold or wonderful. How hard is it, after all, simply to speak, or to sing, or make poems? Not as hard as putting laughter into a bottle. Maybe easy as the breaking of an egg. See how the caramel words loll about in the mouth. But they are fickle as fireflies. The search for the perfect voice is the search for perfect truth. It is not about pitch or quality of tone. It is about an essence at the edge of almost, not quite heard, striving to be visible, but only felt in the heart. It is what is missed first when the beloved goes away. We sat on evening porches, listening for the voices of our ancestors. We heard the tribal echoes glide across the still, gaunt prairies. We listened harder for their meaning, so we could repair the souls of the people. Hiroshima came and went. Cyberspace was born, an imperfect kid. We strained our ears and hearts. Our attention never wavered. Then a great fatigue came upon us as we sat on the porches and verandas, the stoops, the porticos. We slept. We never did learn how to repair the souls of the people. But one day we awoke with new vigor, and we did hear the voice inside that whispered of love and beauty. So we gave them that instead. I dreamed of summer boyfriends, dripping from the ocean, dripping from the August heat, dripping with sex sweat. I dreamed I was enchanted like no one and no other thing existed except the summer boyfriends. Nordic surfer boyfriends with eyes like sea glass. Dark and beautifully brooding poet boys, Garcia Lorca-like, maybe Latin. Mahogany boys whose music oozed out of them and dribbled all over the place. A gorgeous miscellany. I enjoyed them with delight through all the golden days and through dancing nights, fragrant with blooming jasmine. These dreams of those summer boys, like champagne on a sultry day. No complaints. Beyond the scrim where reality toys with fantasy, a mouth-wateringly seductive couple dances the tango. Covered in black, good black couture, one sleekly suited, the other richly gowned, they move with precise technique, foot flicks swift and intentional. They had danced this dance before in the lamplight of a street corner, but this was no ordinary sequel. For these women, it was the elegant prelude to their marriage. Today, the face of the big white mansion had blushed rainbow colors as the High Court made marriage equality the law of the land. splendid. Seriously, splendid. I came of age in the seam between two worlds. I was the last bohemian, suave and comfortable in my beatness, cast into a smoky, jazzy landscape by a lonely and disfigured God. Stuck in the becoming and in the future of the first free love power peacenik, overflowing with acid and the wild drumming, barefoot dancing on wooden piers until my feet bled, doing ritual peyote with solemn Indians who waved smoldering cedar under my nose to keep me from throwing up, then poked me through into the other reality. In a trick of syntax, my books were Gertrude Stein and Alan Watts. I heard Jerry Mulligan and Miles, Hare and Lady Day. My idioms were bop and jive and rock and roll all at once. I was only slightly confused by this. Sometimes, in moments of quiet hesitation, I would not know whether to bob my hair or grow it long, or wear all black or blazing colors, to wander into a nihilist night, or seek the sun on a rooftop. The Tao ignited the eternal sky, and I am grateful for the youth that tore me from one paradigm to another to now, where the world changes by the hour and new searches for old mysteries begin all over, urgent and peaceful. I have a friend who likes to argue, and so do I. And when she does get mad, a small pink smudge as of rouge starts along her left jawbone. As we talk, it grows pinker and then violet up her cheek. I thought she was a spiritual dilettante. She is, but I had not thought it. When we would finish 2 hours later, the flame slept again in her cheek, like a small light behind a distant shoji. In my house, when early morning windows start to light up, the furniture talks crisply, cracking wisecracks, creaking, brays the room awake. TV stands and standing lamps, wall units, kitchen tables, but not upholstered chairs or sofas. I think they're too sedate. Conspire with 7 kinds of birds chirping, cooing, cawing in the yard, with trucks and distant freight train clanks, a dog with 2 sharp ruffs, a telephone that rings in someone else's house, the thump in the driveway when the Times gets tossed, all clamoring for my attention. They are all in it together, a plot to drag the sun up out of slumber, with Orpheus, the black one, on lead guitar. I intend to understand this. Get a grant, do a study, write a paper, find out why and how I get this mighty wake-up call from dressers, armoires, and the rest, without the slightest of requests. Makes for maddening mornings if you don't like modern music. Three, 4, 5. Deft and silent in the night, without changing a blade of grass, oranges fall from the tree. The weight of deep drench rain has graduated these small suns overnight, fecund, ready, ripe, finished living on the tree. I blink. I look away an instant. Now others full to oozing with sweet juice, sit in the blades, a destiny of breakfast. Only perfect oranges, richest in their gift, fall silent as the tree in the magic rain. Lives perfected, work well done, dropping from the tree of life, souls returning home.